Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I've been waiting for this show for a number of weeks. You know, what's really hot right now, it's a hot topic. I mean, you can't go online, you can't go on TV without people talking about sort of bullion and gold and silver and coins and collectibles right now, because everybody's talking about it as inflation keeps on increasing. And we wanted to bring a real expert on the show with regard to sort of not only what's going on in this space, but also the different types of software that are available for companies to start getting involved with this very amazing industry. So we brought a real leader in this space on the field. He's a worldwide leader. His name is Mr. Dan Barrett. And of course, he's the founder of Plutus Software. And of course, he knows a lot about precious metals as the co-owner of Pacific Precious Metals. But we have so many questions for Dan. He has a great software. It's an end-to-end solution really for the bullion, coin, and collectible industry. But we want to get into it. We have so many questions. Dan, welcome to the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series.
Thanks very much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, you have such a vision for what you're doing. I mean, you really looked at the bullion and coin industry and realized that there really wasn't a product to assist real retailers to really not only record their buys and sells in the transaction, but really to create a full system to sort of track it all. But I want to get into it deeper with you in just a moment, but let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet as we become very famous for at .com magazine. Tell us what you're doing at Plutus, and then we're going to get into it.
So I founded Plutus, actually was, I was involved in co-owner of Pacific Precious Metals, and I'm more of a tech guy. And what they were missing was they had no software systems to manage inventory, to link into their website, to push out to various marketplaces like eBay or Collector's Corner or any of these things with real-time pricing. It's, you know, the bullion industry, you said it's really hot right now. People are buying gold. It's inflation is rampant, and if we measure it by 1980 standards, it's even much higher than the astronomical rates they're quoting today. So everyone's focused on gold. The demand for gold is up, and our software platform provides that sort of real-time solution where you get real-time pricing on your website of gold, of any kind of gold bullion, silver bullion, platinum bullion products. The coin industry, where it's also extremely hot. The prices have doubled on collectible coins over the last year and a half, and then other collectibles that we provide. But there's thousands of these small retailers all over the country that, you know, buy and sell this stuff daily, and they have no software to manage that business and to lower costs, increase efficiencies, and sell more. So I took that on. It's a pretty small industry. There's only 3,000 to 5,000 dealers out there. So from a big guy perspective, it's pretty small. But because I was involved, hey, this looked like a great opportunity to build a software product. And like all construction or software related projects, I thought, okay, I'll have this knocked out in a year. That was 5 years ago. I'm still evolving it, and it's still growing, and we're adding clients every day. So it's been a great run. It's an interesting space to be in, and I think it will be an interesting space to be in for, you know, the foreseeable future, because I don't think gold's going anywhere.
Yeah, Dan, it's such a remarkable entrepreneurial story that you have. Of course, you started and you looked at the precious metal space, and you said to yourself, with your engineering background, there has to be a better way. And then you decided to sort of start Plutus. Let's talk about it a little bit, because like you mentioned, there's a lot of smaller shops around the country. They're not really managing their collectibles very well. What types of companies reach out to you at Plutus and they say, hey, Dan, we've heard about this end-to-end solution. It looks remarkable. We want in. You know, what does that first conversation sound like with the potential client?
Well, the first conversation is usually, hey, you know, I'll you know, when I go to either, let's say, a collectible coin show, and there's lots of those that are going on, I talk to people and say, hey, what are you using to manage your inventory? And some guys, you know, particularly if they're older, they'll hold up a pad of paper And I'll say, well, how do you know, if anything's disappeared from your inventory, what price you paid for it? And they goes like, I kind of manage it. And they shrug their shoulders, right? And so when I tell them about the system, and certainly there's some guys that aren't interested. They're, really old. They've been in the business for 45 years and computers are a challenge for them. But for the majority of them, it's just like, yeah, we really need something, right? We really need something. We want to talk about that, but it's a pretty big undertaking initially to say, all right, how do I get these 8,000 or 10,000 items that I own into a new system so that I can manage it and sell it on eBay, sell it on Collector's Corner, sell it on my own website, which I'm not doing today, and then manage it all. So they're really enticed by it, and they always want to further that conversation. So I've got ongoing conversations with loads of these small retailers, the ones that are embracing the technology wholeheartedly are the ones that we see are starting to sell a lot more and succeed on the national landscape. So it's a pretty exciting time. And most people, when they see it, they say, wow, no one else has built something for our industry. And this is different. Yeah, okay. And then they say, well, can it do this? Can it do this? Can it do this? And it's usually yes, 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 yes. And it's like, oh, no, but that's a good idea. We'll build it. Right. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I love it so much. Of course, anybody that uses your system, they find, I would imagine, that it really improves their profitability and it really increases their sales, because you need this type of sort of feedback loop that your system provides, especially to a business owner. So it's really remarkable. One thing that we loved about your technology, Dan, when we looked into it, is we sort of looked at it like you and your technology team, you've done all the heavy lifting so that your clients don't have to. So where did that come from, that idea that we're going to do all the heavy lifting and we're going to sort of put together a very integrated, easy solution that would appeal not only to really tech savvy, people on the front lines, but also these other people that, maybe are not as tech savvy as maybe the younger guys are?
Right. Well, it's, we looked at that, right? And that was one of the challenges, is how do we build this end-to-end solution, and what do we need to do in order to make it simple and particular? And it's not even just for the older guys that aren't as computer savvy. The younger guys, they want to spend more of their time on, I need to go to this coin show, or how do I market more of my stuff, and what's working and what's not working. And our system's integrated with Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager and Facebook marketing and Pinterest and all of that stuff. So all they have to do is do that and put a couple of codes in there at the back from their other accounts, and our system will push all of that information into those analytical tools so that they can see how many people have been on the website, how many people have abandoned their shopping cart, how many people are buying this, that, or the other thing. And it gives them a lot greater insights to see all that. And then we have our own separate reporting structure so that they can see what they bought, what they've sold, what they're making the most money on, what they're not making money on. And it's a good system all the way around, right?
Yeah, people love
always
it,
room for improvement. Always room for improvement. And that's why I still got a full team working around the clock on our systems.
Yeah, I love it so much, Daniel. Of course, you're committed to your clients. So I would imagine, based on the feedback loop that you have and the number of clients that you have, that when they mention to you, hey, Dan, what if we had this? What if we had that? That you're very responsive to listening to your clients. Let's talk about how important listening to your clients is to build and make the most robust software that you possibly can.
It's critical to get that feedback. And all of my clients have my direct mobile number. So if they run into an issue or can't figure out how to do something, or have a specific request for like, hey, it would be great if the system could do this, they're calling me direct, sending me a text. I get on the phone with them as soon as I'm off my other calls, and then we say, hey, what can we do? And I'll say, all right, well, what if we do it this way or this way? Will that work? Because sometimes they're looking at it from a very narrow point of view, because they've done the business this way all their life. But if I can broaden it out and say, hey, that's a great idea, but what if we do it this way? Because then you can do this, this, and this. It's usually that feedback, and then we build it. And, loved all the way around, basically.
Yeah, I love it.
But it's key to listen to let clients directly contact me so that it's involved almost directly in the product development process.
Yeah, I love that. You're using your clients in product development. You give out your cell phone. I mean, I think it's really brilliant. Your phone must be pinging all day long, with people. So it's great. Let's talk about sort of the vision just for a minute, because obviously we know that, this system, this end-to-end solution that you built and continue to improve upon every single day based on the clients' recommendations and what's going on in the space, and with your technology team making the improvements, of course, you continue to improve. But how important is the back end? In other words, we know the front end works great. How important is sort of the reporting and the bookkeeping part of your system to your clients as well?
It's actually very important. And, we've integrated it with QuickBooks Online, and we'll probably integrate it with QuickBooks Desktop shortly in the future. But we also have a lot of reporting built into the system so that they can see what's, real time, what's my revenue, cost of goods sold, gross profit, and then we can push all of that stuff into QuickBooks real time for them so that their bookkeeper gets all that information, doesn't have to go through cuts down on the amount of time that their bookkeeping takes, all of that. But yes, the back end system, the inventory control, where they can count their inventory and see, well, I'm missing one gold American Eagle because the system says I should have 15, but I'm only counting 14. Hey, let's go investigate this and figure it out. Instead of at the end of the year going like, okay, we're missing 12 ounces of gold. I wonder where that went, right? So we have all this control systems, daily cash drawer systems, inventory control, reporting on sales, and in a variety of metrics, and we can push it all to the back end bookkeeping status as well.
Yeah, I love it, Dan. When I think of you and what you've done, I look at you as sort of a zeitgeist in the space, someone that's a forward thinker. Let's bring our minds into the future a little bit, because I know you love thinking about that. Let's say I have a gold coin, and let's say I want to go online and buy something, but I don't want to use my credit card. I don't want to use cash. I want to use my gold coin. What's the future look like? Am I going to be able to go with my gold coin, somehow exchange that, get the money for it, use the money to buy something else? How does sort of that exchange look with, gold coin, silver, platinum, and things like that?
Yeah, that's certainly, it's possible today to do that. It's you can't, because you physically have the gold coin in your hand, somebody else has to take that from you. So it's not like you can buy something from across the country and say, hey, I'll mail you the gold coin. Send me the stuff first. Obviously, that's not going to happen. But yeah, our system allows people to walk in, and that happens all the time with Pacific Precious Metals, because I know I talk to them a few times a week to see how their business is doing. People will come in with a gold coin or silver coin and want to either change it just for cash, or they want to buy something else with it. And it's just a simple in-kind exchange. So it's pretty easy to happen with our software, where you could come in, you credit your account by 1 ounce of gold, and then you can buy whatever you want or take some cash, however you want to deal with it. But I do see that in the future, it's unclear to me, because I'm a big fan of crypto as well, and I'm surprised the government hasn't shut it down, or the banking industry has found some excuse to shut it down so far. And maybe it's too big now for them to do that, which is my hope. There'll be gold-backed cryptos, and there are already some that exist, but there's definitely some advantages to crypto as far as exactly what you said. Hey, buying something, you can send something on the blockchain across the country, and they know they've got it, and it's irrevocable, and they've got the money. But there's also a lot of benefits to the physical gold market, where you don't have to worry about somebody getting your private key and all this other stuff. You've got the gold sitting in your dungeon or your basement or wherever you've got it stored, right? And it's not nearly as volatile as crypto, right? So
yeah, it's very interesting. There's a lot of people buying safes right now, and like you said, hiding their precious metals. Your system, Aureus, I mean, when I look at it and I think about it, I would imagine that your clients also say to you, hey, Dan, we have a lot of people walking in the store, but we also want to put up a nice system on our website. We want to have a shopping cart that's fully integrated, sort of for, bullion and things like that. Let's talk about that part of your system, because I would imagine a lot of people connect with that idea as well.
That very much so. And that's a critical component. I think primarily the first thing is, hey, they want to be able to manage their inventory, but everyone wants to sell more product, right? Because there's a lot of operating leverage in the coin industry that, it doesn't take a lot of extra work or manpower to sell twice as much stuff. But now your profits are double, right? So having a professional website that's got a shopping cart that feeds in real time, it's integrated with the back end point of sale is key. And our system supports all of that stuff, whether it's bullion, listing, where the prices update multiple times a minute, to collectible coins where most of it might be fixed price, to you can sell jewelry, you can sell gemstones. We've got a variety of other things that they can buy and sell through the point of sale. You can put all of that on the website, and it's all priced real time. They click buy, check out, pops up in the point of sale as a new sale right on their dashboard. They can fulfill it. I don't know, maybe the person's going to come in and pick it up because they get to select that through the checkout process, ship to me or pick up in person. If it's pick up in person, which one of their locations? It supports multiple locations. All of that's real time, and it's with a professional looking website. And the clients of Aureus is, by the way, I don't think we actually use that word very much. Plutus Software is the corporate name. The product's name is Aureus. Aureus is the ancient Roman gold coin that was used for hundreds and hundreds of years as the main staple gold coin in both the Republic of Rome and the Empire of Rome that people used to buy and sell, right? And then the silver coin was called the denarius. So I called my product Aureus point of sale. So it just kind of represents the gold version of coins. So, that's kind of what the system will do for them. It just basically helps them sell a lot more. And they've got a state-of-the-art, custom-built website with an integrated shopping cart that feeds right into their point-of-sale system.
Yeah, it's really remarkable what you've done. Of course, we've spoken about coins, we've spoken about gold. Let's talk about a couple of other areas that a lot of people are interested in these days, because there's, you're living on the margins if you're one of these companies, scrap and then gems. I mean, does your system also address scrap and gems? Because I would imagine you're getting a lot of calls about that as well.
Yeah, we do. And so when you say scrap, what we're referring to is old jewelry or old silverware, right? Your great aunt dies and leaves all of her tea sets and silverware to your wife, and then what do you do with this? No one uses this anymore. Or jewelry, right? Every woman on the planet owns some jewelry. Some of it they like, some of it they don't like, some of it breaks, whatever, and they want to cash it in for the gold value or the silver value, what have you, right? So when we say scrap, that's what we're really talking about, mostly old jewelry. Most of these small dealers around the country, and none of them are pawn shops. My software doesn't do pawn. It just does, the small time gold bullion type coin dealer that also buys jewelry from the public. So usually the coin dealers will pay better rate than a pawn shop will, right? So you go in, you exchange it, they weigh it, they test it to make sure what kind of gold it is, how much gold content, and then they pay people based on the gold content. So it's a critical factor, because almost every dealer that that uses our software, that's interested in our software, does that as part of their business. So selling them a software solution that doesn't include that, they'd say, well, now I've got to use two systems. I've got, the system for the scrap, but then I use yours. Yours is great for bullion and coins, but it didn't have scrap. We built it from the get-go to include scrap. And when you're buying old jewelry, you end up with gemstones, right? There's diamonds in there, there's rubies, sapphires, emeralds, whatever. So we also provide that category in there where if they want to pay for a large diamond, you got a 1.2 carat diamond that's coming in, and you want to pay the person for that diamond and log it into the system based on all its characteristics, the 4 C's. We all know what the 4 C's are. At least we knew that when we got married and we had to learn it, right? So that we could go out and buy that engagement ring for our soon-to-be wife. So it also supports all of that. And
Yeah,
then we
I
also
love
do
it.
paper money. We also do collectible paper money. And, I don't know if you've ever seen old paper money. I try to resist the temptation of buying it, but the artwork on it is absolutely amazing. The old US dollars that when it was the larger size bills, we all have what's called small size Federal Reserve notes now. But the stuff that was previous to that, the artwork was absolutely astonishing. And they were larger size bills. And so our system supports that as well, people buying and selling that. And that's a straight collectible. But you're buying a $10 old US bill and you're paying $3,500 for it. So it's got a little bit of collectible value to it.
It's such a great space. Of course, that artwork is so beautiful. And of course, there's a lot of notes throughout the world as well, not US dollars, where the artwork, you can't believe how gorgeous and beautiful the artwork is on those notes. Let's talk a little bit about risk. Let's talk a little bit about the way that Dan Barrett thinks about risk with regard to having all your money, for example, in notes versus other options that sort of spreads out the risk and gives you a sort of a more diversified approach. Let's talk about that a little bit, because you have some very interesting sort of thoughts about, having all your money in hard assets versus some of the other assets that are available today.
Yeah, I've never, I used to work, I worked on Wall Street for 9 years and I left when the hedge fund I was working for kind of blew up. They didn't really blow up, but they weren't making any money in the '08 crisis, '09. And that's when I got into the gold business, because I was already buying physical gold myself and I couldn't find a legitimate place to buy it from. But I've never been a big advocate, and there's plenty of gold bugs that come in to the offices of Pacific Precious Metals, and all of their money is in gold and silver. And I just think that maybe they're right, but I've never been a big advocate of putting all of your money into any one asset class, because things never go as you expect. There's too many variables in the world that can change things, whether it's central bank policy, whether it's geopolitics, whether it's inflation. All of these things play a role, and none of us are smart enough to predict accurately, right, when it's going to happen or whatever. But I think that people should have some money in gold and silver, bullion, whether it's low single digits or high single digits, which is typically any one asset class. That's what people will allocate to, or maybe slightly higher in this environment. That's for them to decide with their financial advisor based on their particular situation. But I'm not a big advocate of anyone putting all of their eggs in one basket, right? Because we just don't know. We just don't know how it's going to be. Owning a home is a good investment as well. That's a hard asset. You got to live somewhere. And it's proved to be a very good investment over the last 20 years, 30 years as well. So
yeah, great advice to diversify. Of course, Daniel's basically saying, talk to your financial advisor for sure. Yeah. Let's talk about competition. Yeah. And before we get into the entrepreneurial journey, and again, thank you so much for cutting some time out today. I know you're so busy. You give your cell phone out to your customers. It's probably pinging in the background right now. Let's talk about competition, because I would imagine in this space, when your software gets into every single location, that those companies are going to be competing against each other to buy and sell at the right price to make sure that they have a valuable ongoing business entity. So how important in the future is the competition in the space going to be between the dealers competing against each other?
It's not as great as you might at first imagine. There's certainly some national bullion dealers that use sort of plug and play big e-commerce platforms to sell bullion nationally, right? And that's some competition for them. But for the most part, most of the dealers sell locally, right? Even if the person's ordering online. The person's ordering online because, hey, the price dropped at 10 p.m., but they're not open, but I can order right now, lock in my price. Tomorrow I'll go in and pay, give them cash, or I'll give them a check or whatever and pick up my gold. Or it's a situation where it's a collectible coin. Well, finding a collectible coin, it's a very specific year, very specific mint mark, very specific grade, blah, 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 blah. it's not like there's a million of them out there. So if you're buying from one dealer, none of the other dealers, or very few of them, actually have it. And there's some good published prices, so there's not going to be a big fluctuation in the prices on the collectible coin side between dealers. But on the bullion side, a lot of people just want to buy locally. And so long as you've got a competitive price, all the dealers that are using my software, they're in different cities or towns all over the country. So they're not really competing with each other in that sense, right? Somebody, you live in Atlanta. I don't know where you live, but let's just say you live in Atlanta or a suburb of Atlanta, and you want to buy some local gold. You'll go and you get a good price, local gold dealer right there. You can buy it online and go pick it up from them or have them ship it to you. But you know them, you trust them. You don't have to worry, right? Now, if it's a problem, and now I got to ship it back. And it's not like you're buying a pair of jeans or an iPhone. You're buying something that's worth thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. A lot of risk in getting that in the mail, right? A lot of risk in shipping it back if you don't, if you have a problem with it. So they're not actually competing with each other as much as you think. And I think that's one of the benefits of my platform. The other thing I'll say is we don't really have any competition. No one else has built a product like ours. And I think it's partially because I already knew the bullion industry, and then I've learned the collectible industry through all of my clients over the last few years.
Yeah, that makes sense. Of course, there's so many people that just want to go local and they want to walk into the local shop and they don't want to do it by mail or by FedEx or UPS. They want to go in, they want to see it, feel it, touch it, get to know the entrepreneur behind the business,
Yep.
Get to know the CEO, get to know the founder, and actually, do business locally. And I love that so much. It's a great sort of niche that you've built here. Dan, let's get into your entrepreneurial journey. You started, back in 2008, you were at the hedge fund, and then one thing led to another. And here you are, developing this powerful software. We have a lot of younger people watching the show, and, maybe they're hitting a roadblock. Maybe they're hitting a pothole in the road. Maybe they freeze because they freak out a little bit. Let's talk or share some insight, Dan, from your past experience to the younger entrepreneurs watching this show. Maybe you could share with them some ideas about what it takes to get through a tough time in business, how to keep on pushing and come out the other side.
Well, and I certainly I know what that is like, because there have been tough times since I left Wall Street, and I started first. I helped set up and I'm co-owner of the bullion industry, and then moved into the tech side pretty quickly after that. There'll be times where you're bleeding cash, right? And you don't know, where am I going to get more cash? Can I keep affording to fund this? What's my long-term vision? Am I approaching it wrong? You have to pull back and ask yourself where you're spending all your money, and is it giving you the return that you need? Are you better off to spend money elsewhere? What can you cut out during the hard times and still give long-term without jeopardizing the long-term viability of your whatever you're doing? Right. And it doesn't matter whether you're building software or whether you're building trying to make a restaurant successful or whatever. Right. It's just like, when you're in the hard times, you've got to watch your costs and do everything you can. You're working 14, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're wearing every hat imaginable. You're wearing the marketing hat. You're wearing the sales hat. You're wearing the clean up the place hat. Right. The bookkeeping hat, you're wearing so many hats, and you got to keep doing it, right? But you got to persevere through, and you're tired all the time. But if you keep working and you treat other people that you're working with fairly, whether you got employees or not, I've always been a big advocate as treat your people fairly, be honest with them, don't lie to them. As far as if they're not doing a good job, you got to tell them, you got to do it this way, because I can't afford to have you doing it that way. It just doesn't make sense. And if you're honest with people and straightforward and not mean spirited about it, I think usually people respond to that, right? Because they know that they know it's coming from a place of honesty, right? So that's what I would tell any younger entrepreneur that's hitting a roadblock. You make sure you're wearing all the hats that you can, that you give responsibilities to others that might be working for you when they can handle it. And when they can offload some of that work onto them if they can do it as well as you, right? Because you won't be able to do everything, but you're going to be doing a lot, especially in the hard times.
Yeah, great advice. Of course, like you just mentioned, entrepreneurs would rather work 100 hours a week for themselves than 40 hours a week for somebody else. And be honest, like Dan says, and for the entrepreneurs watching the show, rewind what Dan just said. I mean, he kind of gave you a mini Harvard MBA right there about how to be an entrepreneur. It was really good. Now, before I let you go, I'm extending the time a little bit because I wanted to know a little bit about the team, because I know you're a big proponent of building a great team. And I know you have a great team at Plutus right now. Let's talk about how important a team is to entrepreneurs to build a great company.
Yeah, it's key. And usually everything comes down from the top. So if you don't have the right mentality, you can't build the right team, right? And as I was just saying, you got to be direct with people. You got to be honest with people. You got to treat them fairly. You got to reward them in a way that is an incentive for them personally, right? And everyone might be incentivized, or what's important to them might be a little different. So you have to try to find what's important to that person and incentivize them. So for some people, it's just, I just want a stable job where I'm getting a paycheck, and I'll work for you. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it, and I'll do it on. And other people say, hey, I want some upside. I'll put in extra time, but can I get some stock options or whatever? Right. So you have to sort of tailor it depending on the skill level involved and whatever that job is within the team. You build a team and you try to keep people as long as you can, because the continuity and the efficiency you get of people who understand how the company works, where it's headed, et cetera, is really important. And likewise, you find people that aren't fitting in, you got to let them go and find their own way in life and something in a path that enriches them. But you do have to let people go also that aren't part of the team, don't see the vision, aren't willing to make the commitment.
Yeah, Dan, that's great advice. Of course, again, put your people first. Leadership starts at the top. Corporate culture starts at the top. And again, if someone's not quite working out, you set them free and they'll figure out where they belong in a meaningful way, in a meaningful, powerful position for themselves in their lives. And by doing that for them, it sort of is good karma for you and your company. I mean, it's really great. Dan, congratulations on what you're doing at Plutus Software. Of course, the Aureus POS. I mean, that was a vision that you came up with, and here you are, you built it, and it's just the go-to sort of POS system now in the industry. So I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today. It's been great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me on. And, I look forward to maybe talking to you again at some point in the future.